Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. So today is Friday, March 27th, and we are going to work on the last two pages of our paper math review. You need to open up your packet to those two pages and make sure you have a pencil ready. Okay, so the very first problem that we have here is a bar graph, and we have to answer 5 questions about this bar graph. But before we even think about answering any of these questions, we need to make sure that we label our bar graph. Now, when I say that, you might be a little bit confused because there's already labels here. We have a title, favorite pizza toppings, we have labels on the bottom, and we have numbers on the side. But what I mean by labeling is we need to figure out the value of each of our bars. This bar graph is a little bit different because it's not counting up by ones or twos, but every line is counting by something else. So I'm going to give you about a minute, and in that minute, I want you to figure out what each line is counting by, and then I want you to write the value of each of the bars on top. Go ahead. Take about 10 more seconds. Okay. So hopefully you figured out that every line represents 25. So it's counting by 25s. So for the pizza topping tomatoes, it goes right to the line that's labeled with 50. So that has a value of 50. That means that 50 people wanted to have, said that tomato was their favorite pizza topping. Now let's look at pepper. If we look up at the bar here, it's in between 100 and 150, so that value is 125. Over here for onion, that is between, nope, not between anything, it's right at 200. Pepperoni, ooh, wow, that's really popular. Pepperoni is between 300 and 350, so that's 325. Then I have bacon. Bacon is between, oh, not between anything. It's 150. It's really important that you double check. You notice that I was moving my pen left to right, and that's just a way for my eyes to follow the line all the way to the number. And my last one, mushroom. Going up here, mushroom is 250, right at that line. So one thing I totally forgot to do, and hopefully you did this during your work time, but I forgot to read the problem out loud. So it said that Good Time pizza makers are best in making pizza with 6 different toppings. They took a survey about customers' favorite toppings and recorded the results in the bar graph. So use the bar graph to answer the question. So these results show you what are the most popular toppings and what are the least popular toppings. So now that we've labeled it, we're able to answer some of the questions. So let's take a look here at the first question. The very first question is saying, which is the most popular topping? Well, that would be the topping that got the most points. So hopefully we all know that's 325 points, which equals pepperoni. Awesome. You could just write pepperoni, that's totally fine. And now I want you to take a second and I want you to answer questions 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the lines below. Definitely use some scratch paper or the space on the sides if you need to. Let's come back together in about a minute and a half. Go ahead. Take about 30 more seconds. Okay, so the next question says, how many customers have chosen either tomato or pepper? So that's telling me that I need to do some addition. That means I know that 50 people chose tomato, and I'm going to add 125, which represents how many people chose pepper. So when I do this, I'm thinking about my quarters. I know 50 cents is just 2 quarters, so if I have 125, I'm going to add 2 quarters. So 125 plus 1 quarter would be 150, plus another quarter would be 175. So the answer for this is 175. People would be a great label for that. If thinking about quarters is something that's a little tricky for you, no problem. You could draw base 10 blocks out to solve this. You could also write an algorithm and solve that way, whichever way works for you. Question 3, if 75 more customers prefer bacon, which one will top the chart, bacon or onion? Now, that means that bacon so far has a score of 150, but 75 more people like bacon. So if 75 more people like bacon, that means the new total for bacon would be 225 people, because 150 plus 75 equals 225. So if 225 people like bacon and 200 people like onion, which one would top the chart? That means which one is more popular or most well-liked. And that answer, my friends, would be 225 people, bacon. And the reason why bacon wins is because 225 is greater than 200. Awesome. Let's take a look at number 4. Which topping has 250 votes? Because of that work that we did in the very beginning, labeling each bar, we know that the answer to this one is mushroom. And my last question, list the toppings in order from most popular to least popular. Now, some of these questions were a little bit trickier, so I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds in case you haven't gotten to this question. So right now, pay attention to number 5. Check your work if you've already done it. Take 30 seconds and figure out how to order these toppings. Okay, so we have to list the toppings, not the numbers, but the toppings in order from most popular to least popular. So we already know, and we've already said, that pepperoni is the most popular, so that's going to come first. I'm going to cross that off here so I don't get confused. Now the next most popular topping is mushroom. And the fact that we labeled our bars earlier is really helping me do this quickly. The next one here is onion, followed by bacon. And we have 2 toppings left, pepper, and the least favorite, tomato. I know for me, my vote would probably be for pepper. I love vegetables on my pizza. I know in my class, a ton of people like pepperoni and cheese. All right, let's turn over to the next page. For this next problem, it says, my sister bought 4 packages of gum. All of the packages have 12 pieces of gum in them. She ate 8 pieces of gum. Now, how many pieces of gum does she have? This is a tricky problem because there's many steps to it. So let's think about it. We know so far that her sister bought 4 packages of gum. and then all of the packages have 12 pieces of gum in it. But then she decided to eat 8 pieces of gum. So we have to figure out how many she has left. But do we know how many she has to start with? We don't. We need to figure that out before we figure out how many pieces she has left. So this is a tricky problem, and I'm gonna have us solve this together. Right now, I want you to set up on your paper, I want you to set up your key. We need to figure out the total amount of pieces of gum that she has. We know she has 4 packages of gum. So you can follow along and copy me as I go. We also know that each package, there are 12 pieces. So 12 represents the pieces in each. And I'm gonna write pack for short. So this is the information we know. This is what you should have in your key. But we need to figure out the total number of pieces that she has before we can actually answer this question. So as you are finishing up your key, take a look at your key. Think in your head, is this an equal group problem? Or is this just a regular addition or subtraction problem? Hopefully you figured out that this is an equal group problem, because this right here represents our groups. This represents the number in each group, and this represents our total. So because we're missing our total, we need to solve with multiplication. Write your multiplication number sentence and take about 45 seconds to figure out what the total number of pieces of gum is. Go ahead. About 10 more seconds. Okay, so hopefully your number sentence was 4 times 12 equals something, because that means I have 4 groups of 12. So that would be 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12 equals something. Okay, so 12 plus 12 represents 24, and 12 and 12 represents or equals 24. So now I can add 24 and 24 together. 20 and 20 make 40, 4 and 4 make 8, so 24 and 24 equals 48. So we haven't solved the problem yet, but we did figure out the first part. We know that her sister has a total of 48 pieces of gum. So now we need to know how many she has left. So if she has 48, but she decides to eat 8 pieces of gum, take about 30 seconds to figure out and write down a number sentence that would represent the second part of the problem and figure out how many pieces of gum she has left. Okay, hopefully your number sentence was 48 minus 8 equals something, and we know that 48 minus 8 equals 40. So this represents the pieces of gum that she has left. Great. We are going to change up the next 2 problems just for the sake of time. So the next 2 problems go together. It asks us to draw an array to model this number sentence 3 times 7, and then we have to write the facts in the fact family that match this array. Instead, what I want us to do is set up a chart here like this, our fact families chart, multiplication and division. And on the multiplication side, you can write that number sentence that they gave you. Just add equals something. I want us to write the facts in this fact family because it's really important that we write not only the multiplication facts that would go with this, but the division facts. And we need to make sure we understand that multiplication and division, they're just like addition and subtraction. They're inverses of each other. So here we have 3 times 7 equals something. If we turn around these parts here, it would be 7 times 3 equals something. And now I want you to take a second, maybe 30 seconds, to figure out the 2 division number sentences that would also match this fact family. Once you're done, we'll go over it. Okay, so just like subtraction, our division number sentences have to start with our total because division is when we take a total and we split it up into groups. So the first number sentence could be something divided by 3 equals 7, and the second division number sentence would be something divided by 7 equals 3. All 4 of these number sentences are in the same fact family. Great. Now let's go down to the number line. I'm going to put my paper up here so that we can really see this number line and answer these questions about it. I'm going to zoom in here. Great. So with any number line problem, and we've done a couple together so far, the first thing we need to do before we answer any of these questions is we need to figure out how it's counting. And this one's going to be a little bit trickier because I do not have numbers right next to each other. So I have 32,000, some number, 32,300. Think in your head, how is 32,000 and 32,300 different? Well, hopefully you figured out that this number is 300 more. So the strategy that I think that I would use the most is because I have 2 blank lines here, and this is the difference between these 2 numbers is 300. That makes me think of groups of 100. So the first thing that I would check is if each line represents 100. So we're going to count by 100 to see if that's right. 32,000, 32,100, 32,300, 200, 32,300. So that makes sense. So I'm going to label my number line, and I'm going to go every other on the bottom and top just so I have enough space. So this would be 32,100, 32,200, labeled 32,300. Next one is 32,400, 32,500, 32,600. You really have to label it nice and small. This next line is 32,700, 32,800, 32,900, and we've labeled it correctly because the next one is 33,000. That's 100 more. And then another group of 100 means 33,100. Now that I figured out how this number line is counting, and now that I have labeled my number line, I'm able to answer the questions. So the first question says, what number could point A represent? And the second question says, what number could point B represent? I want you to answer these 2 questions. I'll put a star here. In the next minute, take a look where they are on the number line and think about a possible answer. Okay, so when I am figuring this out, I have to take a look where point A comes between on this number line. Point A is between these 2 points, and I'm gonna like zoom in here by drawing out a number line. 32,600 and 32,700. And point A is right around here. So I know the total distance between these 2 points is 100, which would mean 32,650 would be my midpoint. We've been practicing this when we are talking about rounding numbers. So I can clearly see that A is really close to 32,700. It's not 32,699 because that would have to be right here. It's a little bit further away from that. So any number that you wrote down, if you wrote down 32,680, maybe like 80 to 32,690, those are all really good estimates for what the value of A could be. Doing something similar for point B, I'm going to draw another number line out here. Now point B is between 32,300 and 32,400. So point B is right about here. So my midpoint would be 32,350. So I can clearly see that B is much closer to 32,300 than it is to 32,400. It's not 32,301 because that would have to be right near the line. But if you wrote numbers like 32,310, and I would even accept numbers to 32,300, maybe 15. So those are all good estimates for that value. Now the last question I wanted to save to do together, because this last question is asking us to put point C where 33,050 should be. So 33,050 is going to come between 33,000 and 33,100 on our number line. Remember, they're increments of 100, so that means that I have to look at the endpoints of 33,000 and 33,100. Where do you think on this number line, remember this is just zoomed in a little bit, 33,050 should go? Remember, the total distance is 100. Hopefully you said right in the middle. Right in the middle, so on the actual number line, it would be right here. And I would label that with a C. It's not exact because I'm a little bit off, but it should be very close to the middle because 33,050 is 50 away from 33,000, and it's 50 away from 33,100. That's the midpoint between these two numbers. Awesome. So that's all the math that we have for you. Oh, let me zoom out here. Oh, nope, not in. That's all the math that I have for you for today. On Monday, I know that you do not have any more math in any of your packets. On Monday, the papers that you're going to need that follow along with my math video will be in the distance learning folder that has been shared with you and your families. If you do not know how to access the distance learning folder, it's incredibly important that you reach out to your teachers to make sure that they can send you that link again, because all of the materials that you're going to need and follow along with will be inside that folder. Now, with that being said, we don't expect you to print anything out. If you have that capability, feel free. But if you don't, just use some scrap paper. You can even use some extra paper that you have that's in this packet, or anything that you have lying around your house, just to use some scrap paper to solve these math problems, okay? Awesome. But again, any questions at all about that, any questions about your distance learning folder, please reach out to your teacher and they will be more than happy to help you. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend and you get to spend even more time with your close family. Thanks.